Good afternoon, everyone. If I could have your attention, please, we'd like to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Greystone Power Chamber Luncheon today. We're glad you could be here with us. My name is Mike Stevens, and I serve as the chairman of the board of directors, and I'm head of commercial banking for Metro Bank here in Douglas County. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Before we give thanks for this delicious lunch, I'd like to say thank you to Sam and Roscoe for the food. If we could give them a quick round of applause. And at this time, I'd like to ask Max Kaler with Douglasville First United Methodist to step forward and ask blessings on the food and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, everybody. Let's pray. We're standing up. Might as well stand up for the prayer as well. Let's pray. Good afternoon, Lord. We gather as a community to honor those who serve us at the risk of their own safety. We're reminded of a description of those servants' counterparts from 9/11 when one person observed they were rushing in while others were rushing out. We sleep and live more comfortably knowing these professional men and women are always on call. As the song America the Beautiful proclaims, may we more than self love our country and community too. Cause our politicians in the city, county, state, and national bodies to work in harmony, to choose to get along, to put egos, self-interest, and power in the back seat for the common good of all. Lord, move among us in our hearts and lives that we would also be on call to aid one another and follow the example of these we honor today in service to our neighbors. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ, who gave his life in service for the world. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Max. We appreciate you doing that. What better way to honor our local heroes today than to be sponsored by the Red Cross? They're our sponsor of today's lunch. They're a hero in the class among themselves, and we'll hear from Steve Harrell in just a moment about them. But we'd like to take a chance now to recognize some of our heroes in our community. As I call these gentlemen's names, if you'll allow them to stand up and introduce those people they brought here with them, because they want to have recognition not just for their hard work but for their team. So if you'll hold your applause till we're done here at the end. I would like to personally recognize these dedicated individuals who work tirelessly in our community to make our lives safer and more beneficial each and every day. If I could ask Chief Womack to stand, please. He represents the Douglasville Police Department, and introduce his team that he's brought with him.
That put this on for us. It's very well appreciated. It's nice to be able to come together and break bread with everybody and catch up with some folks we don't get to see every day. Just be back and forth with fellowship. But with me today at my table, I've got Darren Shaw, who used to chase me back before I was on the right side of the law. Greg Graff, Sue Ann Shaw, J.R. Davidson, Zach Artis, and of course not with us today that everybody knows, my Deputy Chief Gary Sparks, who's off teaching a class in Augusta today. And the two people we're really here recognizing as our heroes today are Mr. McConnell, Mr. Dave McConnell, who is our Civilian Employee of the Year, who takes care of all of our maintenance among anything else we need taken care of as far as our vehicles go at the police department. And our Officer of the Year this year is a homegrown local boy, graduated from Chapel Hill High School and family roots right here in Douglasville, whose daddy happened to be one of my coaches at Douglas County High School when I was growing up, and that's Adam Forrest.
Thank you, Chief Womack and your team. I'd now like to introduce Sheriff Miller and his team that represent the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Miller.
First of all, let me say it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with Congressman Lynn Westmoreland, my friend. I'd like to introduce to you Chief Deputy Stan Copeland, Captain Bobby Holmes of the Criminal Investigation Division, Captain Jeff Nally of the Patrol Division, Major Tommy Wheeler of our Professional Services and Detective Division, Colonel Mo Harper, Captain Ed Landers, and Captain Tim Pound. There's more than 230 years of law enforcement experience in this county. I'm very proud of that.
That's all?
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you to your team as well. Now, last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Chief Spencer, recognizing his team with the Douglas County Fire Department. Chief Spencer.
And I too would like to thank the Chamber for putting this on. It truly is an honor to be here. My team is everybody's team in here. Without these folks that are sitting at this table, we couldn't do our job. These are the folks that actually work behind the scenes and don't get recognized for what they do. So our lead investigator, Steve Pate, Sheila Watson, whose official title is the assistant to the fire chief, but she is more my right arm than anything. And incidentally, she will be retiring in February, so we're not real happy about that.
She's going to work for the sheriff's office.
We may have to arm wrap a little bit. Captain Pablo Lugo, he's in charge of our EMS training. Captain George Mann in charge of our fire training. Division Chief David Brown, who is actually responsible for the operations of the fire department on a 24-hour shift. And Deputy Chief Kim Ransom. If Sheila's my right arm, then Kim will be my left arm. And they allow me to do the stuff that I'm able to do. So I appreciate these folks more than I can ever express to them.
All right, thank you. Let's give everyone a round of applause, please. On behalf of the Douglas County Chamber of Commerce, I just want to express our gratitude and appreciation for everything each of you do to sacrifice your time and your talents to the service of our community. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce Steve Harrell with the American Red Cross, who's going to step forward and speak to us about the Red Cross for a few minutes.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity on the behalf of the American Red Cross Southern Region to thank each and every one of you for coming and supporting this luncheon. It's a very important luncheon because we're taking the time to honor our public service professionals who work every day to make this community safe. The American Red Cross Southern Region is very honored to be a member of the Douglas County business community and a supporting member of the Chamber of Commerce. Just a couple quick facts about the Southern Region of the American Red Cross. We supply 95% of the blood to Georgia state hospitals, and it's a job that goes 24/7 like our public service professionals. There's always a need for blood, and there obviously is no substitute in the medical profession. The other thing I'd like to mention, our facility down on Riverside Drive is one of the largest blood processing centers in the world. Right now we're processing blood from 4 states. We have the capacity to, we're currently processing 600,000 units of whole blood each year. As you know, blood can be broken into 3 parts, so that quickly multiplies to 1.8 million units of blood that has to be tracked forever. We just cannot lose track of each blood product. Also, too, we have the capacity over time to grow to 1.2 million units of whole blood. So it will be in the community for an extremely long time. With that said, I would like to encourage each one in this room, given the opportunity, to donate blood at your very next opportunity. We've left a schedule on each table showing all the blood drives that will be in Douglas County through the end of December. So with that said, please donate, because it does save a life each and every time, because when you're sick and you need blood, there is no substitute, and you will have a better tomorrow. Once again, thank you all for coming, and I really want to say thank you once again to the public service professionals in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We want to say thank you to the Red Cross. We can't tell you how much it means to have you in our community as a part of our community. Also, as sponsoring our luncheon today, we thank you to you and your team very much. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Congressman Lynn Westmoreland. I've condensed his bio down to just a half a sheet of paper, so Keep it short and sweet. Representative Westmoreland is of Grantville, Georgia. Entered Congress in January of 2005 after serving 12 years in the Georgia House. He represents Georgia's 3rd district, which stretches from the southern suburbs of Atlanta to middle Georgia. In Congress, Lynn serves on the Transportation, Infrastructure, Small Business, and Government Oversight, as well as the Reform Committees. In the State House, Lynn served 3 years as the Republican leader, fighting for lower taxes and less government. He played a major role in delivering a Republican majority in the State House for the first time. The Westmorelands reside in Coweta County after living more than 25 years in Fayette County, where he started a building company, LAW Builders. In the construction industry, Lynn worked in all aspects of the trade, including commercial, residential construction, and land development. He and his wife Joan have been married for 41 years. They have 3 children and 7 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Lynn Westmoreland.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Mike and Callie and all of you for inviting me here. And Steve, I have given a lot of blood in the last 2 years. I don't know how much the Red Cross has captured of it, but we've certainly given. I just want to, are there any candidates here today? Just candidates, not elected officials, but candidates. If you're here, stand up. I see Mike Crane back there. Because candidates, and thanks, Mike, and thank you. Because even though the incumbents hate challengers, we don't hate them, but it keeps us honest, and it keeps us accountable, and it keeps the issues out in front. And it's a challenge to take on an incumbent. I've done that before, and so I just want to thank everybody that's offered themselves up for public office, whether you're there now or whether you're a candidate for it. And let me say this, too, about the Red Cross, Steve. I was in Congress after Katrina, and, the government felt it necessary just to continue to throw money and money and money and money into the efforts that was going on after Katrina. And the people of New Orleans and that whole Gulf Coast region, what they needed was people that really cared about them and wasn't doing it for the money. And the Red Cross did a tremendous job, and I can't tell you from my experience down there what the Red Cross was doing down there. You were doing it down there because y'all really cared for the people and weren't making money off the situation, so thank you for that. And I, too, want to thank Sheriff Miller and all the deputies for all that you do, for Chief Womack and your police force and all that you do, and last but not least, Fire Chief Scott Spencer. My father was a fireman in the city of Atlanta for 26 years. He actually died in an alarm over on Murphy Avenue when I was 21 years old. And, just from living with my father, I understood the experiences that they go through, and all of our first responders go through, that when that bell rings or that police radio goes off, you don't really know what's on the other end of it. They may tell you that, it's something fully involved, or they may tell you it's a domestic, dispute, or, it might be something, but you really don't know until the time that you get there. And so my utmost respect and thank you for what y'all do each and every day. And I don't think you get near enough credit. I know you don't get near enough pay, but we'll do that because you're doing it for what you love. And that's what my father did. My father loved the fire department. I cannot tell you how many meals, fire department meals that we ate. Unbelievable. It's like a family. We'd go up there, they fixed dinner. They were just good cooks, I guess. I don't know, but we used to go up and enjoy that. Police would stop by and check in and see what was going on, and it was just a real family. And I know that y'all got the same traditions that you carry on even today, and I want to make sure that you understand how much we thank you. I also want to thank my buddy David over here for being a prosecutor, Brian for being a solicitor. We got the judge here. Y'all go through a lot of stuff too that a lot of people don't understand, and I know that the relationship that you've got with the law enforcement here is very good. We see we go into different areas where sometimes there's not as good a relationship that there should be between the prosecutor and the law enforcement people. But I know that's not the case here, and so just thank you, David, because y'all put y'all's life on the line every day too. My son-in-law is an associate DA in DeKalb County, and he feels like he's just as vulnerable as somebody else in a uniform because of some of the people that he has to put in prison and at least attempt to put in prison. So all of y'all deserve congratulations too for the job that you do. Let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on in Washington right now. We're here to honor these public servants, and believe it or not, I work for you. I'm your public servant. But what we have too little of in Washington is people that understand that they are public servants. You know, that they were not elected to lord over anybody. That they were elected to serve the public and to listen to the public. I come home every weekend, I spend time with my family, and I spend time in the district. And so we have got to elect some people, and that's one of the things that I've been working on for the past 2 years is out recruiting candidates. And we've been recruiting candidates, and what we've been looking for, the first thing that we have looked for is courage, because courage is contagious. You know, if you don't think courage is not contagious, you go with some of these firefighters or some of these police officers, and you see people standing by, and when they get there and this car is on fire and somebody's trapped inside of it, or a house is on fire and somebody's there, and that firefighter or that police officer rushes over there, other people will go with them. Courage is contagious. And so we wanted to recruit some people that had courage, because we know, and I've learned from experience, if you're willing to stand up, other people will stand with you. That's one of the reasons I try to be the first one to the floor to vote, because I know if I'm going to be one of only a few to vote against something or for something, that it's important that I get my light up first so other people can see that somebody else is there. Nobody likes to be by themselves. So we've been recruiting people with courage. The other key component of who we have been recruiting, this may sound weird to you, but we've been trying to find candidates that really don't want to be in Washington. Now, does that sound unusual? But it's true. We've got enough people in Washington today that just want to be in Washington. They don't care anything about being a public servant. They don't really care anything about going home. They just care about being in Washington and being a congressman. Now, I'm not going to tell you all that I really think about that, because the last time I spoke here, I put this event on YouTube when I made some comments about waterboarding. So I'm going to relieve you all of that and not give you as much advertising as we got last time. But we're looking for candidates that have courage, and we're looking for candidates that really don't want to be in Washington. They'd rather be at home with their business, they'd rather be at home with their family, rather than be here. Because I think if you go back and look at our founding fathers, you will find out that that's a trait that most of them had. If you look at some of the movies and read some of the books, they didn't really want to go to Philadelphia or New York or eventually Washington, D.C. They were farmers, they were teachers, they were lawyers, they were family people. And you know, it wasn't like getting on Delta and flying for an hour and 15 minutes to get to D.C. You know, they loaded you up on a horse or in a wagon and off you went, and no telling how long it would even take you to get there. And so those folks, you know, they would say, look, I don't really want to go, but the community would say, we want you to go because we know that you're going to stand for our values. And we know that you're going to go up there and represent us well. And so those are the kind of folks that they wanted to go. That's the attitude we took. We went into people's communities and talked to the chambers and the Rotarians, the Civitans, the Kiwanis, church groups, whatever, and listen to them to who they thought would be the best representative for their community. So we did that. And the other thing, you know, besides having courage for not wanting to be in Washington, we wanted people who knew who they were. You know, when you get elected to office, not that any of this has ever happened to any of our elected folks, but this is what I would tell the candidates. The day of the election, I want you to go into the bathroom or your bedroom or the back of your closet door, whatever, and I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to see who you see, because that's who you are. The day after the election, whether you win or lose, go look in that same mirror and make sure you see the same person. If you lose, you're still the same person. And if you win, you're still the same person. And then if you win, you're going to go to Washington. And every morning, whether you're getting up to fix your hair, shave, or whatever, look in that mirror and make sure you recognize the person in the mirror. The first day you see somebody different in the mirror, go home. Get out of town. Because you're either fixing to get in trouble yourself or you're fixing to take this country into some direction that the people that elected you don't want it to go. And so those are the three kind of people that we've looked for, and I think we've got a good group of those. And look, Republicans are not always right. We have been wrong in the past. We're just asking the people to give us another opportunity to govern, because we think that it's important that we have those people that are willing to listen to the people of this country about the direction that we need to be going, and not being geared or pushed or funneled into anything that we don't really want to do. We should be able to drive the kind of car that we want to drive. If gas goes to $100 a gallon, and if I want to buy a car that gets 1 mile to the gallon, that should be my ability, not being funneled into something that I really don't want to do. If I want to have health care, that should be my decision if I want to have health care. It shouldn't be anybody else. It shouldn't be the government's decision to tell me whether to do that or not. So those are some things that we're really focused on, and I hope that we'll at least have an alternative when it comes to November the 2nd. And I hope that each and every one of you are registered to vote. Because let me tell you, I spent the first 6 months trying to figure out how I got to Washington. My family was raised in a mill village. My mother was a true stay-at-home mom, and the reason that is we didn't have but one car. My wife said she was a stay-at-home mom, but she was never home. But she was a real stay-at-home mom. We only had one car, so when Daddy went to work, and Daddy, like most firemen, had two jobs. He was a surveyor during the day if he worked a night shift. If he was working a day shift, he was at home at night. And that's when we do the grocery shopping and those type of things. But, you have got to be that person that goes out and votes. You've got to be that voter. And once you vote for somebody, and don't be uneducated about who it is. Don't go to the polls not having read anything and go in there and say, I'm going to vote against every incumbent. I don't care who it is, I'm voting against every incumbent. Or you go in there and say, you know what, these old boys, they've done a pretty good job, I'm going to vote for every incumbent. What you end up with is unintended consequences. And so I spent these first 6 months looking at my history and where I'd been, and a high school graduate kind of guy that I was there. I've spent the last 5.5 years trying to figure out how some of the other people have gotten there. Because I can't imagine them being elected. But you just don't sign a piece of paper to go. You have to be elected by the majority of the people in your district to be able to do it. So when you go vote and somebody doesn't, the person you voted for, you don't agree with them, don't get mad at them. If they told you they were going to do something and then didn't do it, then you need to call them and hold them accountable for it. Don't just get mad and walk away and say, I'm not having anything else to do. Hold them accountable for it. And because that's your duty. Look, Congress has got a very low percentage of favorability. And I don't blame them. And I think it's got a favorability rating of about 20%. I don't know who those 20% are. I mean, I've never met any of them, to tell you the truth. Must be family members from some of these men and women. But you know what? the American people put those folks there that's got that approval rating of 20%. If somebody was working for you and had an approval rating of 20%, I'd want to make a change. So those are some things. I want to encourage you to go vote. I want you to hold the people that you vote for accountable, and I want you to be an educated voter. I want you to know what that person stands for. I want you to understand what his principles are and what his motivations for being in office are, his or her. So if you'll do that and we'll do our job, we'll have a great place to live. And as long as Chief Spencer and Chief Womack and Sheriff Miller, y'all continue to keep us safe and sound here, and we do our job, wouldn't it be a wonderful place to live? So with that, Callie, I'm going to go ahead, and I didn't know if y'all want to take questions? Okay. We got time for a couple questions if anybody wants to do that, and if not, I'll shut up and sit down. Yes, sir.
I'm looking for a congressman or senator who will have the courage to introduce a term limits bill. You know,
Well, yep. Well, let me tell you about term limits. And, when I first ran for office, and this happens to a lot of people, I guess, but when I first ran for office in 1992, I was a big term limit person. I was for term limits. My first meeting, and many of you that have been elected to office go up to the Carl Vinson Institute at the University of Georgia, and they're going to tell you how to be a prosecutor, they're going to tell you how to be a judge, they're going to tell you how to be a city councilman, they're going to tell you how to be a county commissioner, they're going to tell you how to be a state rep. I was so excited about being there, having run twice and gotten beat, and finally winning, finally getting to go to the University of Georgia, and sat in this meeting. And the first meeting we had some bureaucrats up there telling us what we could not do. I thought, that's weird. I just got elected by the people. I mean, is there stuff I can't do? And they were saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. Well, I got up and left. I didn't stay. And the longer I stayed in government, I found out that the term limits should be for some of the government workers. Now, I'm not talking about everybody. And if you want to be a professional federal employee, then let's let you work at the Department of Agriculture for 5 years and then go to the Department of Defense and then go somewhere else. What I'm finding in Washington is that the bureaucrats have more authority than the elected officials. Now, let me tell you the other thing about term limits. In Florida, and I've been doing the recruitment and I've been doing the redistricting, so I've been traveling to some of these states that do have term limits. I was down in Florida. Larry Creedle is the speaker now. Dean Cannon is the incoming speaker. And then they've got somebody that's going to be the speaker after Dean Cannon, and then there's somebody that's going to be the speaker after him. Now, it's an 8-year term. So Larry Creedle is the speaker now, but he has no real power because they know he's not going to be there next year. So the speaker in waiting has more power than the speaker that's sitting in the chair. There are people running for office for the Florida House of Representatives that are not even elected that's running for speaker. So it gets a little bit confusing about that. And then the other thing about term limits, look, I'm accountable to you every 2 years. If I'm term limited, I'm not accountable for you for those last 2 years or last 4 years. I'm not going to be accountable to you. What do I care? I'm not running for re-election again. I think we have to keep the people accountable. And I think that's up to the voters. I think that's your responsibility. If you want somebody, John Dingell's been in Congress for 56 years. His daddy was there for 25 years before him, the same seat. I tell people there's been a Dingell in that seat for over 70 years. But I don't want to be there 56 years. I'm not up there to make a career out of it. So, I understand what you're talking about with term limits, and it's a great talking point, but when you look at the reality of what those term limits does, see, the Senate having a 6-year term is way too long. Because what they do, a third of them is elected every 2 years. So the third that's not up for another 4 years, they take all the goofy votes for the other ones. And they think, well, in 4 years, they'll forget about this. The guys that's up in the future, they're a little more cautious. The guys that are up this year, they're going to vote conservative. You'll be some most liberal members of the Senate vote very conservative if their election is this year. But if they just got elected last year, they'll be the ones voting for the goofy stuff. I'm telling you, keep up with it. The term limits would bring about, to me, the same thing. And so I appreciate your stance. I used to feel that way, but when I got involved in government, I saw right off that we need to let the American people choose who and how long. Yes, sir.
Speaking of accountability, if 40 or 50 Democrats lose their House seats, what are the chances of a lame duck Congress passing some bills that the American people are for?
Tim, interesting question. I read a little news clip this morning. Nancy Pelosi is now talking about bringing card check up during the lame duck session. We've only got one hope for that. In the House, in the past times that I've been there, a lot of people that get beat never come back. They're done. They're upset. They never come back. That would be a help to us. In the Senate, right now we have 41 votes, but with Olympia Snow and Susan Collins and Lamar Alexander and Lindsey Graham, you can't really count as 41. But in Illinois, the Kirk seat, who Roland Burris has now, the old Obama seat, in Delaware, where Christine O'Donnell is running, she is running behind. But in West Virginia, where Racy has got a lead over, it's a pretty interesting race in West Virginia. I don't know how much of you have been keeping up with it, but Manchin is the current governor. He's got a 66% approval rating, but only 37% are voting for him for the U.S. Senate. That's pretty interesting. So Racy could win that race. And then you've got Buck running against Bennett out in Colorado. All four of those seats were appointed seats. And so I think 3 of the 4 end November the 2nd. So if we could win 3 of those 4 seats, that would then give us 44 in the Senate. So hopefully they could stop or block anything stupid that we do in the House. And so the lame duck session, it's going to be there. We've been using it with our candidates to ask the incumbent Democrats, will you sign this pledge saying that you won't vote for any major legislation during the lame duck? The president, when we were at the meeting about the health care bill, I think his comment to John McCain was, the election's over, we had an election and we won, more or less. Since we won, we're going to do what we want to do. I hope he'll keep those words in mind if we do take over the House or the Senate or both, and that we won the election, so he needs to listen to the American people from that standpoint. So, but I do think we are going to have a lame duck session, and I just don't know what's going to come out of it. And typically when the host stands up, it's time for you to sit down. But I do want to thank all of you for being here, for honoring these great men and women, and thank you all again for your service and dedication to keeping us all safe and sound. But thank you very much, and God bless you.
As the Congressman leaves, we want to say thank you to him. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you taking time to come visit with us out of your busy schedule. We appreciate you coming out today. We want to say thank you to the City of Douglasville for the use of the conference center. Thank you to Sam and Roscoe's for lunch, the American Red Cross for sponsoring, and to Greystone Power for their annual sponsorship. Thanks. Have a great day. Remember our ribbon cutting right afterwards. Thank you.